Welcome in, everyone, to the Foolish Mortals Dynasty podcast. I am Connor Giebler here with...
Hi!
Calvin Moore is here as well, going over the Foolish Mortals Dynasty League pre-draft power ranking. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So, again, these are the pre-draft power rankings. We're trying really hard to not consider who could be drafting who next month, as we are just a little under a month away from the draft party. Alrighty, so starting off here at number 12, it's the Loggers.
It's the Loggers, dude.
Yep. It's just a collective of meh at wide receiver. So currently right now, wide receiver 1 is Zay Jones. Zay Jones did finish as the wide receiver 26. I have the Loggers ranked at number 12 in the league currently. Calvin, you have him ranked at 11, so I guess maybe you're a bit more optimistic than me about his team then.
Okay, so not really, to be honest. I did have them at 12, but after how rough the season was last year for the Gladiators, I felt they had to be at last.
I'm just laughing because every time I look at his roster, I'm like, oh, okay. And then there's just like 7 tight ends that are at the bottom of his bench. But yeah, so Zay Jones finished as the wide receiver 26 last year. Calvin, would you be happy if that was your wide receiver 1 going into this year?
Not in the slightest.
Okay, what about old man Adam Thielen? He's got to be like 33, 34 by now. He's 32, okay, but he'll probably turn 33 during the season. He finished as the wide receiver 29, so not just a couple steps behind Zay Jones as his wide receiver 2. I don't think that's really too sexy either. I don't know, what do you think of Adam Thielen this year?
I mean, it's a similar situation. I just look at this team and I don't see any top-end talent outside of Chubb.
Yeah.
So it just looks like it's going to be a rough year.
Well, what if I told you that Dak Prescott finished as the QB 18? Does that sound real to you?
I mean, it feels like he should be higher than that. But I know he didn't play a full season.
That's why I traded him really quickly over to the Loggers. There's just not really a whole lot going on here. I mean, this team practically it's going to rely on Dak Prescott, Nick Chubb, and I guess it would be Zay Jones. It's cool to have all these tight ends, but you only have 1 tight end spot and 2 flexes. I mean, I guess at this point, if you have this kind of receiving core... Okay, Donovan Peoples-Jones, okay, sure, he might be a sleeper this year. I understand the hype that's behind him this year, but I'm honestly just not really a huge fan of it at all. And then, of course, once we draft our kickers in the kicker raffle, maybe some things will change, but the depth pieces here, Matt Collins and Darnell Mooney are not bad, but... where did Darnell Mooney finish last year? The wide receiver 71. Okay. I'm guessing he missed a lot of games is what that sounds like to me. No, he didn't. Oh, wait, no, he missed the last 5 games of the season. But he still managed to get 61 targets, 40 receptions, only the 2 touchdowns. But granted, that whole Bears team was just atrocious. It was just Fields running for his life 24/7. I don't know. So there's a little bit of hope for this team, but I guess if I was him, I would be trading Nick Chubb and just preparing for the future. How about you?
Pretty much the same. I did the per game projected for each of the teams, and they said it projected 84.8, which is worst in the league.
Ooh.
So I think it's really about accumulating draft picks and young players and seeing if you can turn this around, hopefully in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think definitely at the draft party there will probably be some discussions about moving Chubb. Khalil Herbert, I understand the hype for. He had a couple of great games last year when Montgomery was out. Montgomery is now over to the Lions, but he has Deontay Foreman sharing that backfield with them. We'll just really have to see what he does after the draft because he still has 4 picks this year, I believe. And let me see, I believe he is the 106?
105.
105. Yeah, so... Oh, that's right, him and the Vaqueros.
He's got actually a lot of picks this year. We got 7 picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but still 84 points a game. That's really not that good. You know who also probably averaged that many points a game last year? The number 11 team, the Gladiators.
I think that's being generous.
Yeah, that just might be. So, let's see here. We got for the Gladiators, it's Breece Hall, and then A.J. Dillon as his running backs here. Breece Hall, sounding like he might be able to start Week 1. He's optimistic for Week 1. The Jets are optimistic for that, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. But he's also got... I mean, this team has... It's a mystery at the wide receiver room, but yet has a lot of upside, possibly. Drake London... I mean, he's pretty much primed to have a breakout season. I have him and Traylon Burks breaking out this year. And then Elijah Moore is the wide receiver 2, but I believe down here he's also got Calvin Ridley will realistically be the wide receiver 2 on this team. And then Christian Watson. Greg Dulcich was a good tight end last year. He really was. I mean, this team has quite a bit of upside, like, on their side. But it's just when I get down here to the bench, it's kind of a ghost town, really. Like, I mean, David Bell, Isaiah Spiller, Sky Moore. I'm not on that hype train.
No, I have no faith in him.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely, the backup for Mark Andrews, actually did flash quite a bit last year too. So again, team has quite a bit of upside. I would say the main points for this roster right now is just got to find I mean, he's got quite a few QBs, but it's, QBs nobody would really ever start, I don't think, outside of Jared Goff. And then, just like I said, too much of a mystery at the wide receiver room. I mean, but I also wouldn't be too excited about having A.J. Dillon as my RB2. So I think this is a team drafting 3rd overall.
And 11th.
Will definitely be leaving this draft with a running back or 2 for sure. And, of course, at the 103, Gibbs might be there. We'll just have to see what I feel like taking at the 102.
I was going to say, will Gibbs be there?
We'll have to see. That's going to be such a tough decision in July. That's going to be really tough for me.
My decision's easy.
Yeah. But let's see here. Yeah, I mean, what do you think of this team? What do you think, like, a realistic record? Or what do you guys, the points?
It's tough. This is a team that I personally view as on the up. Mm-hmm. I think definite improvement over what last year was. The thing is, I look at Breece Hall, great, feel very comfortable with him, but most players who come back from this sort of injury, it takes a year before they find their form again. So I don't know if you'd want to have high expectations on him this season.
I guess if you're the Gladiators and this is your roster, you're just starting him anyways because he's got to do something.
Oh, yeah. I think he's not going to be bad enough that you're going to throw him on the bench. I mean, he's still going to be a good running back. It's just he may not be at 100% and get what you hope you would expect to get from a healthy.
And I guess if Goff and the Lions are failing early for whatever reason, I mean, Russell Wilson as a backup quarterback is not terrible.
As a backup, I think he's good.
Yeah.
And we don't know with the new coach, it's if he turns more into the Russell Wilson of old, it would be solid. I wouldn't expect that at this point, but it's a possibility.
Did you know it will be 686 days since Calvin Ridley last took a snap when he takes the field in Week 1?
That doesn't fill you with a lot of hope.
Well, what if I told you that in 2020, so it'd be just almost 3 seasons ago, he actually finished as the wide receiver 5 with 90 receptions and 9 touchdowns. And now he's going to have fellow long hair Trevor Lawrence throwing to him.
And that sounds great, but you can't help but be a little nervous when a guy hasn't played in 2 years.
Would you be trading Calvin Ridley right now if this was your team?
No, because I don't think you're going to get much for him at this point because people are going to be not going to want to take on that risk. Mm-hmm. And, I think he's worth at least holding on to and seeing what happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the last player to talk about on this roster will be Christian Watson. Finished wide receiver 41, a pretty impressive rookie year with old man Aaron Rodgers throwing to him, especially for that 4-game stretch, 30 points, 19 points, 19 points, 23 points. So he finished as wide receiver 41 his rookie year, which, if I remember right, I believe that's ahead of Drake London. No, if Drake London was 31 because he started going nuclear at the end of the year. I remember that now. Wow. I mean, now he's got Jordan Love throwing to him over there in Green Bay.
It's not a good situation. I don't have faith in Jordan. If he would have... He's had too much time to show he was going to be a top quarterback, and he
But you wouldn't be starting either if the quarterback ahead of you was back-to-back MVP.
No. But in the games he did get opportunities, he didn't look good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, that just sums up this whole team. It's just the wide receiver room such a question mark, and it's Breece Hall and end of list at running back.
Yeah.
Once again, Greg Dulcich will probably be a pretty decent tight end to start with. He's also got Gerald Everett, who finds a way to make people start him every year. And then on his bench, he has Curtis Samuel and Isaiah Likely, and Sky Moore, which I guess if you're banking on the upside, that's there. Going to our next team, and you know this as well as me, this feels dirty. Like, we love you, Gerald. The Spiders are number 10 in our consensus power rankings. If I remember right, oh man, we both have them at 10. I thought you were going to be a little higher than me, maybe.
I wanted to be.
Okay, well, let's rip this off like a Band-Aid and take our aggressive text messages later. So let's see. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback going into year 3. I think that'll be great. Dalvin Cook just got released by the Vikings. He'll be starter wherever he goes.
Yeah, he's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be for the team he's been with.
And then we got T.J. Hawkinson. And that's Tyler Lockett, I guess I'll also throw in there. Tyler Lockett's always consistent. And that's the end of list of players that are worth really talking about.
You want to know what I think the saddest moment for this team is? When they drafted Bijan. Because Algier was looking like he might be good, and now you just know the volume's not going to be there.
Yeah.
You just can't rely on him.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be... He might still have a game or two where he's flex worthy, or if Bijan were to get hurt, hopefully that's not the case. Now, he did acquire Miles Sanders from you.
Yeah.
It'll be Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders in that spot, and then he'd probably just be flexing. I mean, are you telling me you're excited about flexing Nick Westbrook-Akina, the currently wide receiver 2 on the Titans, but I'm sorry, he's not really even a wide receiver 3.
ADP has him listed as the 104 of the league.
Oh my god. Devin Duvernay? Hey! Is this KJ Hamler? Yeah. KJ Hamler, I mean, Tim Patrick's going to be back over there, and this is just proving the point. I mean, KJ Osborne and Cortland Sutton are the starting wide receivers for this team with Tyler Lockett, okay? It's just... I mean, Tyler Lockett will be good. Dalvin Cook will be good. TJ Hawkinson will be good. Trevor Lawrence will be good. Why do we have him at 10, though? How would you put it?
There's definitely some guys on that team where you're like, okay, this looks good. But the drop-off becomes really significant.
Yeah.
So once you're talking about depth, I mean, this is a team, if it gets 1 or 2 injuries, it's all done.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of hope with Samaje Perine, I guess, as well. But it's just... this is why they're at 10, I think. It's just he wants us to sit here and talk about how good Paris Campbell is or something. Oh yeah, wide receiver 48. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's really just not looking good for the Spiders. I mean, Randall Cobb had a couple of games, I think, where he actually put some points up on me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, Rondale Moore's down here, too, on this bench. I mean, there's a little bit of hope for that, but you also traded him.
Oh, yeah, I don't have hope in Moore at this point.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be good. You got to remember, I got him the first year he played in our previous leagues, and it just... There was always a feeling this guy's going to work out, and it just never really happened.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next one here. And this starts getting a little interesting now.
Because somebody's going to have something to say.
Yes, somebody will. There's also just when it gets to these next 4 teams, we could literally swap them and not have much of an argument about I have this team here, this team here. This 9 through 5, I think you can make an argument for each team to be at 9 or 5 or 6, something like that. But who we have at number 9 is the Samurai. Now this gets... Okay, yes, I was excited to talk about this. So, they've added the Sun God, Amon-Ra. They have Deontay Johnson and Chris Godwin. And, that's not terrible wide receivers to have with your quarterback being Josh Allen. The only bash I have for this team right now is there's not really anything threatening at the tight end position. It's Dawson Knox, and I mean that's pretty much it. Now, of course, outside of like the top 5 tight ends, there's not many that you would really take at this point. Like, you're just doing week-to-week starts. But I guess if I have Josh Allen, I guess I'm not terrified of starting Dawson Knox. He also has Jelani Woods, that almost 8-foot tall tight end monster that's in Indianapolis. But now, what I really want to talk about is Amon-Ra, okay? So, you traded Amon-Ra to him.
I did.
Why?
I wanted Mahomes. That's it.
Yeah, so,
I mean, as long as the trade seemed somewhat reasonable, because I'm a fan of Mahomes, I wanted him on my team. I mean, when your dad had this team last year, you know how much effort I put in to try and get Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
So when this team was handed over, a light came into my dark life.
I remember his voice booming through this building saying, "Can you tell Calvin to shut up?" Yeah, so Amon-Ra has made his team a lot better. Because, I mean, like I said, just before then, it was Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, and Chase Claypool, pretty much, essentially. Mm-hmm. Now, the Singletary going over to Houston, that's going to be pretty interesting for his running back depth. Corey Davis has never really been a bad backup wide receiver to have on your bench. He's also got Laviska Shenault, who's now in Carolina. That could be, I think he's listed as the wide receiver 3 there currently. And then he's also got DJ Chark here, which I think that's going to be pretty sneaky. Because I think last I looked at the ESPN depth charts, he's listed as the number 2. Chark finished as a wide receiver 76, but he missed 90% of the season. But when he came back, he put up, on average, it looks like about 10 points a game for about the last 5 or 6 weeks. So that's really not too bad. And now he's got, tiny quarterback Bryce Young throwing to him. But I don't know. What's your analysis of this team here? If you want to talk about the running backs,
I'm not thrilled with the running back situation. I mean, it just doesn't. It lacks the top end talent. Now we had Barkley, so we have to bring up. I did get something in return.
Yeah, Mahomes and
for
Barkley,
Amon-Ra.
for Amon-Ra and Josh Allen.
Yeah, so I did get something in return. And you had Barkley on this team. The running back situation doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, James Conner will get his usual 6 or 7 touchdowns or something like that. Probably won't put up a lot of yards. Cardinals are probably going to be the first overall pick next year, where they'll replace Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's about that time.
Yeah. Let's see. Now, in this particular division that he's in, this roster can compete. However, it's just I would probably put them. I would not be surprised if they finished last in the division, because I mean, if we were going to project the Gladiators to do a little bit better this year, if we're going to project the Griffins to do a little better this year, I mean, he could also finish in last as well. But yeah, it's just kind of like we were saying, there's just not a lot of upside to the running back room here.
The per game projected for this team is 94.9.
Yeah, it's not terrible, I guess.
It's creeping up middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much where we have them. They're number 9, so they're creeping up to the middle. So we'll go on to the next one here. The Swolebears. Boy, am I excited to talk about this team. This is still, outside of my team, my favorite team in the league. It's just, I mean, okay, I'm just going to go down the starting roster here. Okay, this is just the starting roster. Tua, Jonathan Taylor, Jamal Williams, Christian Kirk, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins, Darren Waller, Antonio Gibson, Allen Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay? Now, there are some names on there that, especially in the running back room, that you go, oh, crap, dude, this team's going to be good. Jonathan Taylor paired with Jamal Williams, that's going to be deadly going into next year, especially if Alvin Kamara misses games in New Orleans. But there is a player here on this team that I think would shock quite a few that I would really like to talk about, all right? Let me tell you about Sneeko Collins, Calvin. You ready for this?
Okay.
All right, let me get to my note here. This is going to be called my Sneeko Collins soapbox moment. I'm calling him Sneeko Collins because that could be really, really sneaky player on this team. With Cooks gone, he's in line to get more targets. He should score more than 2 touchdowns this year. He's currently listed as the wide receiver 2 on this team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be elite and that he's going to put up winning weeks, you know. And he's going to have an upgrade at quarterback of CJ Stroud. But the thing is, like, when I go back and look at the end of season run that he had, okay, which he didn't finish the last 4 games of the season, so it was about the middle of the season. He was averaging 10 targets a game, averaging 50 yards with those targets, and then he also finished with 2 touchdowns just on the year, okay? This is with Davis Mills. This was also while Brandon Cooks was there. And so I'm saying he's gone now. Robert Woods is there, but dude, I saw him in Tennessee. He doesn't have anything left. He's just getting a money bag at this point. I do see a realm where John Mechie and they also drafted Nathaniel Dell, like how they could harm this. But saying if you have an improvement at quarterback and you've been in this system for a minute, he's only 24 years old. And he has shown that he has the talent. I mean, Davis Mills, he was throwing to him like crazy. If it wasn't Pierce, it was Sneeko Collins. And I mean, I don't think Noah Brown or any of these other receivers that are behind him that haven't even played an NFL snap are going to take anything away from him. So I just kind of want to have my soapbox moment there to be like, hey, here's a player that no one's talking about, and I think could be really, really sneaky, and he's sitting here on the Swolebears roster.
See, I don't know how good he'll be. Now, here's what I can say. His per game projected is, they have him at 5.8.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say it's going to be big, more than that. And the reason I say that is you look at last year when he's in a worse situation,
mm-hmm.
he averaged 7.8 a game.
7.8 a game, yeah.
And I have to assume there's going to be improvement. And with that, you would say that this projection would be way off.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I get what you're saying about him. I do see potential to be a good player.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who can be relied upon week in, week out.
He gets more than 2 touchdowns, and even if he gets 1 more target a game on the pace that he had in that stretch right there, I mean, we'd be talking about a receiver that'll be leading this team in targets, leading this team in receptions and receiving yards, and then that note, receiving touchdowns. So that's why I think that could be a really sneaky play. Now, he's also got Christian Kirk and Deebo Samuel. Darren Waller is, of course, a solid tight end. Antonio Gibson, I regret trading him. He's also got Justin Fields as well. So even if he has a running back injury, he can just throw Justin Fields in, and that'll be rushing yards from the quarterback position there. I mean, every time I look at this team, I'm just like, man, this is a really good team. Alvin Kamara and Elijah Mitchell on his bench. Those players would be starting in other rosters in this league.
Yeah, so this team's per game projected is 101.1, and as you can see, that's a little bit of a jump from, you can see there starts to be a separation of teams in this league, and they're kind of jumped into a next tier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where you really start to get in the teams that you would say really competitive for playoffs.
Swolebears also drafted at the 108 this year, just before the Carnage and just after the Samurai. And then he also still has a pick in every single round as well. Mm-hmm. He also has an additional second-round pick. This team is going to be pretty deadly, I think, going into this year, which was really cool because last year, if you remember, he started off the season 0-4 and then just started to make the greatest comeback ever. Because you remember that his team was incredibly consistent at putting up 120 to 130 points. It's just every time he played someone, that team had their best week.
But here's the risk for this team. You can be as consistent as you want, but especially come playoff time, that's when you start to see some guys, people get the big weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't have that big week, you do have some risk that you're going to find yourself out early.
Well, I would put it as, if there was like a dark horse team to win this division outside of the Crusaders and Reapers, which it's looking like it will be again, facing off, I would put the Swolebears there. I think that's the team that can take this.
I have them as a potential sneaking into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to make a run, but I think they're going to continue to improve year after year, and in a couple years from now, we're going to start talking about can they make a run.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of teams that are going to make a run this year, let's move on to the next one. It's me. It's the Carnage. All right.
Most overrated team in the league.
Oh, yeah. We're overrated for all the right reasons. All right, here we go. I've improved my running back depth through trades. You agree?
Derrick Henry's going to get hurt.
No, he's not. He's immortal. So Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, and Brian Robinson as my 3 starting running backs, all right? I'm pretty content with that. Because Brian Robinson, I know he didn't really light up the world or anything like that, but he was a later round drafted running back. If you remember, there was that storyline, he got like shot in the leg or something like that. And he came back, managed to play this year and everything. And whenever he played, let me pull this up for you here. Whenever Brian Robinson was playing, they gave him the ball. Like, they trusted him. Now, first couple games, didn't really do a whole lot. Against Chicago, he put up 12 points. Green Bay put up 9 points. This is a rookie running back sharing the backfield with Antonio Gibson. Never surpassed 3 targets in a game. I know that's a little concerning for the PPR format, but let me put it this way. He had a receiving touchdown. He's had a couple special teams touchdowns. He had put up almost 20 points as his highest scoring week so far against Atlanta. I mean, and then even in these last 3 games, 12 touches, 22 touches, 24 touches, they give him the ball. And he finished as a running back 43. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, he's going to break out and be amazing, but I'm thinking even if he, with the new offensive coordinator from the Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, even if he gets a little bit more involved or he'll be the goal line back, I probably got him for a steal in that trade with the Reapers, in which I also acquired DK Metcalf as well. So having DeAndre Hopkins at the moment with DK Metcalf and Treylon Burks, the part where my team really starts to drop off is just when you go and look at my bench. It's a couple of backup running backs, Nelson Aguilar, and then it's just a ghost town. So my plan currently is, use my draft capital that I have this year, add on a couple more names, and then probably go nuclear in free agency and waste all my fab. I don't know. What do you think of my team, Calvin? Since you decided to rank me so unjustly, I ranked myself at 4, and then you ranked me at 6, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I look at this team and it's good. For me, the one issue is the depth. And that's kind of why I had to rank you lower. Is just if whoever you draft doesn't pan out for whatever reason, the lack of depth, when you start getting into bye weeks, it's going to be very rough.
And not to mention, I also have Lamar Jackson. He's got his contract. He's going to be locked in as a Carnage player for quite a while for some years to come. He'll have the rushing upside too. I mean, I don't know. I'm really excited about my team this year as opposed to last year, where even last year I was like kind of on shaky ground. What really cost me was I traded Dak and Pollard too soon. I just did it a little too soon, and I probably would have made the playoffs. Sadly, I finished last in the division just because injuries at the end of the year, and then that trade also hurt me. But I also got Kadarius Toney sitting there. I'm excited about him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I think he'll be a wide receiver 1 this year, but I think he's going to do a lot better than he did last year.
I think he could be a solid flex spot.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I have him. I also have the Muth, Pat Fryermuth, dude. He's going to be awesome. Pickett targets him all the time when they're both playing at the same time. I'm excited about that. All right, here we go. Now it's your moment. At number 6, he has the trillion. I have him at 7, correctly so. And here's what I'll say first. You got a lot of young firepower, all right? Olave, Higgins, Judy. You also got the Mahomes and Kelsey stack. Just got Barkley. But do you think sending off Amon-Ra could possibly be your undoing?
Not in the short term. I mean, Barkley's going to get more points per game if he stays healthy this next year. That is the big question. Now, he's only had 2 injuries, but the one injury was a big one. So that's always going to be a little worrisome.
J.K. Dobbins is not bad to also have backing him up in case injuries do come flaring up again. Rashad Penny is there.
But here's something that does have to be considered, because we do know who I'm taking in the draft. So it's going to be
JSN.
Yeah, it's going to be Bijan, Saquon, Dameon Pierce, and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, that's 4.
Oh, man, here we go. Dameon Pierce.
But that's 4 solid running backs.
All right, yeah, so here we go. Dameon Pierce. Now everybody in the league knows this, but we have quite a bit of a disagreement when it comes to Dameon Pierce. All right? Calvin, who is Dameon Pierce to you? What's he going to be?
I would have to say I think he'll be top 20, could be around 15 for running back.
So he's like your champion this year, right? You're just staking your claim like this is it. This is the guy.
Yep, now let's bring out all your faulty evidence.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, see, this is what I'm excited about. So, Calvin, Dameon Pierce was a 4th round running back. Did you know that?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Do you know that there were actually quite a few 4th round running backs that did have pretty good rookie years? Some of them had decent second years.
Yeah.
And then they just completely disappear. Or some of them even completely vanish after their first good year. Alright? So, I put up some numbers. I went back to 2014.
Okay.
You ever heard of a guy called Devontae Freeman?
Yeah, that name's familiar.
Yeah, he was actually a top 6 running back in back-to-back years. You know what happened to him after that?
What?
He vanished. Okay? You ever heard of the name Jordan Howard?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had one really good year. He was also a 4th round running back in 2016. Guess who had more rushing attempts in their rookie year, Jordan Howard or Dameon Pierce? It's Jordan Howard, okay? By about another 40 carries. So it's been at least another 2 games for Dameon Pierce, which he did in less games. And he finished inside the top 20 twice in his career, his whole career, okay? You know who came up after him? Tariq Cohen. You ever heard that name? Oh, cool. I didn't think so. He actually finished as a running back 12 in his second year because he had an assload of receptions and because Jordan Howard sucked. You'll know this one. It's okay, but don't be scared. Marlon Mack. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
He was a 4th round running back. Hey, he was pretty good his rookie year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then was it next year? It was Nyheim Hines.
Yeah.
You know who Nyheim Hines is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember him. Where's he at now? Buried on Buffalo's depth chart. Cool. Oh, okay. Now here's a name that will be a little bit more in your favor. You'll like this one. Tony Pollard. Okay. It took till just last year for him to finally do something, and he got hurt. They drafted a Deuce Vaughn in the 6th round, or 7th round. He's a pass catcher, speedster back. And who's to say they're not just going to re-sign Zeke or Fournette, or could they be in the Dalvin Cook race right now? Okay? And that could end Pollard. Okay, now for the rest of this, I brought up the 2020 and 2021 and 2022 4th round running backs.
Okay.
Just to kind of further prove my point. In 2020, here were the 4th round running backs. Let me know if any of these strike amazing to you. Okay, you ready? LaMichael Pirine. Nobody. DJ Dallas has had like 2 fantasy relevant games ever in his career. Joshua Kelly. He's behind Eckler.
Where was Eckler drafted?
Eckler was undrafted.
So what you're saying is we have somebody who has been successful who did not get drafted.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me finish. You'll have your moment. Darrington Evans. He had like 1 good game in Tennessee. Keyshawn Vaughn. He's behind Rachaad White, and I can't remember who the other guy is, but he's nobody. 2021. Michael Carter. Behind Breece Hall now. Okay. Ramondre Stevenson. This is the closest comp I have right now to Dameon Pierce, okay? Good running back. Another 4th round pick. But he hasn't had a change in coaching staff or anything like that like Pierce has had. Khalil Herbert. He showed some juice, and he's on the loggers. We talked about him. He's got some upside, but now Deontay Foreman's there, and it's also the staff that didn't draft him. Chuba Hubbard, you remember him. You had him.
Yeah.
Yeah, another 4th round. Had a couple good games.
Helped me win a championship.
Yeah.
Thanks, McCaffrey.
Yeah, exactly. Larry Roundtree? What about Demetric Felton? Does that ring any bells?
No.
Okay, cool. Me neither. And here's the 2022 backs. Pierce, Brian Robinson, Zamir White, Pierre Strong, Tyler Algier. Okay? So, at the end, here's my point, okay? He's a 4th round running back who did amazing. Blew away expectations, okay? Not going to take that away from him. He's clearly talented and everything. New office, new GM. Coaching staff is different. That didn't draft him. a coaching staff that went out of the way to go give Devin Singletary a 4-year deal. Not a 1, not a 2-year, not a 3-year, a 4-year, $6 million deal. Now, you just don't do that in today's NFL unless you're going to give them the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Now he also has a rookie quarterback there. He doesn't have Davis Mills to dump the ball off to him. This is a quarterback that can actually throw down the field, except for that one Hail Mary at the end of the season to put them out of the first overall pick. And then, as I laid out, his dynasty outlook right now, it's not looking too good according to the history here, the little history lesson I just gave here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also just want to leave this with, I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. And as I said, he is talented. I want him to do good, just not against Tennessee, okay? We'll stop him. I just don't understand. I guess I could understand people who have him on their team are like really excited. It's like, man, this guy showed it in just his rookie year. He finishes the RB 28, didn't he? Or was it 24? It was something like that. RB 28. They have every right to be excited. I just think people need to lower their expectations. You now have the floor.
So, I mean, a lot of what you said, it is factual. I'm not going to argue against that.
Damn right, it's factual. I spent hours putting that together.
But I'm saying that you only have. But you focus so much on the negative. You make it seem like it's a practical impossibility for him to succeed. I would say that I would like to see him end up around, running back 15. Mm-hmm. But that is a low possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I think having him down, in the mid... Would you have him running back, like you said, mid to late 30s is where you have him?
I would not be surprised if he repeats 28 again. I have his ceiling at the running back 17, actually.
Okay.
But I would say that's the ceiling for me. That is as high as he'll go. But I would say his floor is probably exactly where he's at right now at running back 28. I could easily see him repeating that. It's like I said, the huge part of it is I think it's really weird that this coaching staff comes in. They clearly watch tape. They know how talented he is, and yet they go, hey, let's go get this older guy here and give him a bag for 4 years to play here.
Oh, and I completely understand that, but I would say that since he is young, there is always that unknown, which is why they might commit to a player like Singletary. Just... because they don't know, but it's very possible he could just take over and be the guy, which is, I'm not saying will happen, but I'm saying that I think there's a slightly greater chance of it happening than you give it.
Now, I Singletary finished as a running back 23 last year. Singletary is a do-it-all back. Like, he can catch, he can run hard and everything. We've seen it in Buffalo time and time again. I was a little shocked they didn't extend him, but that's also just today's NFL, really. But the thing is, like, when it comes to this particular situation that Pierce is in, I just have trouble seeing it. But let's move on to the next team here. We got the Griffins at number 5. All right. And with the Griffins, what I want to say is it's definitely a talented roster, but I also view it as it's a boom or bust this year.
Where did you rank them?
I have them at 8.
Remember that.
Yeah, I will remember that because that's going to be correct. So, like I said, boom or bust roster. Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Brandon Ayuk, who he just acquired in a trade with the Vaqueros, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp is on this team. I feel like sometimes we forget that. Dalton Schultz, we just talked about Houston forever. I won't keep talking about Houston. James Cook, maybe. Keenan Allen, all right, safe. Very safe play. And Richie James, he showed some stuff last year. Montgomery and Boyd, Lazard on his bench with Gabe Davis, Bateman, and Tyquan Thornton. He's got a bit of a roster here. I'm going to give him that. And Tyler Boyd, not to mention. I don't know if I said his name. But I that's how I view this team. It's boom or bust. They'll be really good. Or that's probably exactly what it will be. They'll be really good some weeks and then completely disappear in other weeks. I'm not sure what his points average per week is looking like, but I would say it's got to be at like 102, 103, because Jalen Hurts is...
Per game projected 114.
114, oh my gosh. Yep. Okay, wow. Yeah, I guess I view this roster quite a bit lower than what it could actually output. I tried to get Alan Lazard from this team quite a few times already. I just can't get him to let him go.
I think this is a solid team. I think this is a team that's really going to make a run, which is why I had them at 4. That being said, this team has a limited runway left to go after a championship. I mean, there's a lot of older players. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some young talent. But Adams, Cup, I mean, you're getting to those ages, and those are going to be tough guys to replace.
Do you know Adams was the wide receiver 3 last year?
Really?
Yeah, and he did not miss a game. That really helps. But he actually had a couple of games where he did vanish for Devontae Adams stats. There's actually like 3 games here where I'm 4, 5, 6. He would really boom, and then he would just kind of be mediocre the rest of the way. And Cooper Kupp is always going to be safe with Matthew Stafford throwing to him. This is a team that can really make a run, like with the Reapers and Crusaders this year. Like I said, I'm still pulling for the Swolebears. I just think this team is like an injury or 2 away from just... Of course, we don't like to sit here and project, power rankings with injury or anything like that. But I'm saying if he were to get an injury or 2, say, to like Jalen Hurts or Adams or something, this team is suddenly very different.
I mean, to be fair, what team can actually handle a quarterback injury?
Yeah. You know what? I think there is one team that we just talked about, the Spiders. They have like 6 quarterbacks on their bench. Geno Smith, Brock Purdy. Yeah, they'd probably be fine. Moving on to the next one here. This is one that's going to be kind of interesting to talk about, I think, because either we'll view this team very much the same, or we're just going to be on polar opposites here. The Jesters. The Jesters are number 4. Now, I wouldn't be thrilled either to have Daniel Jones as my quarterback with an injured Kyler Murray on my bench. However, the upside here is really, really good looking. Najee Harris. I mean, he's a year removed from all of his ankle issues I believe he was having. His ankle issues, or was it back issues, I believe. And then he also, wow, now I'm seeing here, he actually had quite a few fumbles last year too. 3, 4 fumbles. I think he's primed just to be, he's going to be a top 5 back this year, I think, at the end of the year. There's just, the way the Steelers are going, they're going in a really good direction. I think they're going to adapt a little more of that play action, like run, play action kind of style offense. And if that's the case, I want Najee Harris everywhere in every league that I'm in. Finished as running back 14, having another 7 touchdown season. If that's like, if my running back one was getting 7 touchdowns a year, like as like the floor, that feels pretty good. Over 1,000 yards each season. Like I said, I think he had a bit of an ankle issue last season, but he still got 1,038 yards on the ground. His yards per carry more or less stayed the exact same. So that's really cool to see. And then Jamar Chase and Aaron Jones are there too. Jamar Chase, of course, will be nuclear as always. Marquise Brown, this is the one that's really interesting on his team. Hopkins is gone. Rondale Moore hasn't really done a whole lot lately. Marquise Brown finishes as wide receiver 44. Again, Hopkins was around. He also missed a couple games, but he still averaged, let's see here, yards per catch, almost 11 yards per catch. And he only had 3 touchdowns, which is the lowest in his career. I doubt that will be replicated if, outside of just missing a bunch of games or just poor quarterback play or something like that. This team just looks really good. Like all over. Dallas Goedert at tight end. You have a top 5 tight end. Amari Cooper's there. Njoku is projected to have a breakout year. And he's got some decent depth, but that's kind of where this team starts to taper off a little bit. It's a bunch of, I wouldn't say has-beens, but it's just nothing flavorful here on the bench at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a solid team. I mean, once you get into this kind of point in the rankings, there's not a whole lot difference between these teams. They've all got top end guys, and when we're talking about top end players, he's got one of the best, with Jamar Chase. So that can't be discounted.
You should trade him.
Yeah, good luck with that. But I mean, there's Marquise Brown. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, and the reason I'm not too optimistic is because, I mean, even if he's a top wide receiver, it's on a really bad team.
I mean,
and that's always a thing. Being the best wide receiver on a really bad team, I mean, there's a low ceiling.
Yeah, 107 targets, which is third highest throughout his career. His highest was his last season in Baltimore at 145 targets. Stats were still very similar even at that number. 91 receptions to 67, though. So that just tells me a lot of the balls were not very catchable, is what I'm seeing as that. Man, in Baltimore, he actually had 3 fumbles his last year there. I didn't even know that. He's actually only 26 years old, so he still has about another, 4 years at least of being productive. And I guess if he's the alpha in that room now, I'd want that. Like, if all the targets are going there, and probably that tight end, Trey McBride, yeah, I'd want it. I tried to trade for him earlier, and I couldn't get him to part with him. We've also got Michael Pittman. Since you're a Colts truther, I'm sure you probably like that as well.
Yeah.
Deontay Foreman as a flex running back, that's going to be good. And Jeff Wilson's there. Yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty good roster on. Tim Patrick's coming back. That'll be really good for him as well. But yeah, like, it's really weird with his team, though, because it's just like, it's like this every year. He has a really good team. Like, all 4 years the league's been around, he's had a really good team and just gets to the playoffs, and he's like this league's Titans. They get to the playoffs, and then he loses.
Is this year going to be different?
I want to sit here and say yes. I really do.
My heart says yes. My head says no.
Like, it'll just be the same thing where it just collapses right as the playoffs start.
I feel this is a team that goes out in the semis.
Yeah, it's just like, remember he made it to the playoffs last year and just injuries and just didn't have anybody to start, got close and just still came up short. Yeah. It's just, oh man. All right, now we're getting into the really good teams here. We're getting into the meat and potatoes. All right. Number 3, we got the Crusaders. Again, this is just like you were saying earlier. These last couple teams, like, yeah, they're pretty stacked. That's why they're up here. But the only question that this team really has is just what's going on at quarterback. Jimmy G, Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, and Kirk Cousins are the quarterbacks on this roster. Kirk Cousins will always be able to put up those big games where he just dominates and wins a week all on his own kind of thing. He'll throw like 3 touchdowns to Justin Jefferson, who he has on this team as well. He has young running backs that are studs. He has Josh Jacobs. Rashad White showed quite a bit last year. I'd be fine if he was my running back too. But he's also got Cam Akers, who's still by himself in Los Angeles right now. And he was going nuclear in the playoffs last year. Unfortunately, it's just the rest of the roster here did not. However, he did acquire Odell Beckham from me a while back. He has him starting this year. And he just acquired Devontae Smith from the Griffins just a few days ago. This team's looking pretty stacked. Of course, to have Mark Andrews as well, and their breakout rookie tight end, Chigo Okonkwo, that everybody's drafting really high this year. That's really good to see as well. But outside of that, he has running back depth, but some of these running backs aren't even on teams right now. Kareem Hunt, Darrell Henderson, and he's got Javonte Williams, who is possibly the make or break for this team this year. Suffering a torn ACL last year, really early in the season, but he definitely has showed his stuff, that he's very talented. When they gave him the ball, good things happened. I don't think he's going to start the season, but he could really use him to come back, right?
I mean, he could. I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Anytime somebody tears their ACL, it always takes a year. I don't know why, but that first season back is never a good one.
Yeah, it sucks too. It's like, there's rumors around right now in the league that he might be moving him right around the draft time, just because you might as well try to capitalize on just like, hey, he showed this, that he's clearly talented and the dude. It's just an unfortunate injury, and you could try to sell really high on that. But yeah, like I said, the main question with this team is just this is gonna be a quarterback rotation here, I'm sure, because you're gonna have weeks where you start Kirk Cousins, you're gonna have weeks where you start Derek Carr. He just doesn't have that like stud quarterback, and I think that's kind of what hurts him going into next season.
I think that's the big reason I'm a little bit lower on him than you. I had him ranked 5th. Mm-hmm. I definitely look at this and I go, there's enough pieces he could go on a run, he could compete for a championship, but my issue is just comes down to quarterback play is going to be very iffy. I mean, he's got enough of them that you would think he'll get, at least one of them will be playing well.
Yeah.
but I could very much see him falling into a situation where he's got multiple quarterbacks who are having good, and then they'll have bad weeks, and he doesn't know who to play. Who's going to have the good week?
Yeah, you're going to be sitting there and just rolling a dice for it each single time. He does have Latavius Murray, who's now in Buffalo, and he still has Gus Edwards, who was a serviceable running back while J.K. was hurt. Granted, they both got hurt right around the same exact time. So, I mean, he's got some really good running back depth. Like, right outside the Swolebears, I think this is the best running back depth on a team. All right, moving on. We're going to number 2, the Reapers. All right. Now, Calvin, it must be nice to trade DK Metcalf and still be power ranked number 2 in the league. You think that's a pretty nice feeling?
I'd say I wouldn't be complaining if I was him.
Yeah. When you have players like Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Scary Terry McLaurin, I mean, that's your receiver core. Like, yeah, you're pretty much locked and loaded every single week. Oh, but did I also mention there's a Joe Burrow on this team too? He's pretty good, right? He's good at football.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, and there's also Christian McCaffrey. He's good at football.
I think he's decent running back.
Yeah, and there's this dude. I think you might have heard of him. He's called Kenneth Walker. He's good at football.
Yeah, I'm very high on his future.
You know who's also good at football? Alexander Madison. With Dalvin Cook gone, there's another starting running back for him. Price on him just skyrocketed, of course. I just traded him Damian Harris, which even a little bit in the back of my mind I kind of regret doing because I think he could be really good. But I also sent him Jameson Williams, who's going to miss the first 6 games. But, I mean, again, when we get to these teams, it's a stacked roster all around. George Kittle as his tight end, which is, to me, that's like a make or break at that position. Like, that's where, like, the tier ends, it feels like, of, like, always starting tight ends. But he's got Noah Fant and Tyler Higbee back here. I mean, this team put up 130-something plus points every single week. And I felt like you just could never beat them.
I mean, they're a solid team. I mean, at the end of the day, they were definitely in a league of their own as the second best team in the league. Yeah. The problem is they're the second best team in the league.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Exactly the issue. Yeah. Like, and I mean, barring what happened that championship game last year between them and the Vaqueros, that was the greatest game it was panned out to be. That was going to be the best game of the whole year. But I mean, even looking at his bench here, he's got. This is actually where it gets a little concerning. He is somewhat in that example of an injury away at receiver to possibly nothing. So, like, for example, Mike Williams, I traded him to him. Mike Williams gets hurt quite a bit. He is a phenomenal wide receiver. He's really great at football. It's just when he goes up to catch the ball, he comes down a little too hard because he gets too high in the air. Mm-hmm. So he gets hurt a lot. If he were to get hurt, he would still have Terry McLaurin that he could throw in there. But let's just pretend, for example, let's say Tyreek Hill gets hurt or something on top of that. The next receiver he's going to throw in there is Philip Dorsett or Chris Moore or DeAndre Carter, Justin Watson. I mean, he's not going to have Jameson Williams for the first 6 weeks, but once he's back, this will be a locked and loaded roster for sure.
A badly timed injury, one that he has to deal with through the bye weeks could really hurt this team. That being said, I think even in the worst case scenario, this is still a playoff team.
Yeah, 100%. I love the Crusaders team. I love the guys on that team, but this team's going to win the division again. I think as long as Joe Burrow and Kenneth Walker and CMC are there, that's guaranteed. We're not even having to mention wide receivers, which then starts with Tyreek Hill. But you know what team really has good wide receivers?
Oh, good God. This wide receiving group gives me nightmares.
Okay. As we said, they were the second best team. The best team is the Vaqueros, the trade master generals themselves. I mean, he has it tattooed on him. Trade?
Okay. So the wide receiver rankings for going into the a draft, the ADP.
Yeah.
He's got the number 4, the number 6, and the number 8.
Oh my gosh.
I think a team would be ecstatic if they could have 2 of the top 12. He's got 3 of the top 8.
And not to mention at running back, here's Austin Eckler, the running back 1 last year, with Tony Pollard, who he finished pretty high, if I remember right. Running back 8.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just he doesn't have a player outside of the top 10 except for one. He has one weakness. Do you know what it is? Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not high on Pitts at this point. I mean, his first year solid, but there's just
if even like
his first year was the tight end 6, but
man,
that's not going to. Mm-hmm. He hasn't shown an ability to make up ground and improve your team. He's just more preventing him from losing ground that other players have gotten him ahead of.
And he just had the one touchdown. Like, it's just he caught the ball just enough to be relevant. But I mean, let's just get into this. I mean, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown as the starting receivers. Oh, he's flexing Jalen Waddle. Ramondre Stevenson flexing DJ Moore. He still has Elliott and Fournette on his bench at the moment. He has Joshua Kelly to back up as like an insurance policy to Eckler. Smart. Just traded with the Griffins to get Isaiah Pacheco. The ghost of Marvin Jones, who will still occasionally have good games. And then he's got Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Tolbert, George Pickens, Hayden Hurst as his backup tight end. He's also got John Mechie, who's also threatening my Sneeko Collins projection. But Justin Herbert as a quarterback, I don't think Justin Herbert can be any worse than he was last year, so I think he'll improve as well. But yeah, I mean, this is another championship team. I mean, he has guys on his bench that would start on other teams in this league.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the bottom 4. It's insane. But yeah, we can definitely project to see him back in the playoffs again. Now, I don't think his season will be as successful as last season. He won 9 games straight, almost broke my uncle's, the Vicky Vikings record of 11. He was about to do it. But this team can be beaten. It's not likely to happen. Do you have his projected points per...
His projected points are 127.7.
Golly. I'm guessing that's highest in the league.
Oh, yeah. I think the second highest we have here is 118.8 by the Reapers.
Oh my gosh. Crusaders have to be right behind that, I imagine. They got to be at like 116 or something like that, probably.
Crusaders, 113.5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, there's going to be some variability.
Yeah,
it's going to vary.
But, I mean, we joke about it, but sometimes the truth, the loggers are like his extended bench, because it seems like a lot of the trades he's done are with that team. So it's kind of like looking at the Vaqueros and going, this is what the loggers could have been. But
I will say he's got one issue, and it's not an issue he has to worry about yet. Mm-hmm. Is that when you look at this team 3 years in the future, you start seeing holes showing up.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I mean, Diggs is 29. He's maybe got at most 2 more relevant years of fame.
Eckler is getting up there.
Mm-hmm. He's going to have
28 for a running back.
Yeah. CeeDee Lamb's going to be fine for like the next 7 years.
Pollard's 26.
Pollard's
he's got a late
26
start, so 2 or 3 years after.
Yeah, he doesn't have as much wear and tear in that scenario. DJ Moore is going to be 26. Oh, he's 26. He's got some youth here. But yeah, like I said, this team's weakness right now is just the tight end spot. I mean, if Pitts doesn't show up, and here's the sucky part, he's totally fine if Pitts doesn't show up, because the rest of this roster just makes up all that ground.
He could leave the tight end spot empty, and he'd still be the favorite to win the league.
Yeah, I could see him taking a quarterback as well in this draft if he manages to get some of the middle picks. Because right now he just has the 1 pick this year at the 106. Which actually belonged to the Loggers initially, that he acquired from the Griffins. That 106 has been traded around quite a bit.